Every story has a moment where truth steps forward. This is a place for honest conversations, real experiences, real people, real life. From triumphs to trials, these are the stories that shape us. This is Empire Talk. And now, here's your host, Keith Edmonds. Welcome to Empire Talk, a sit down with Keith.
Take one, a sit down with Keith.
There are parts of my story that I've carried quietly for a long time. Not because I was ashamed, but because I was still learning how to understand them myself. Before I was a pastor, before I was a police officer, before I became a father, before the platform, before the titles, I was a child trying to figure out where I belonged. I was adopted. I'm a twin. And from early on, my life taught me that identity isn't something you inherit. It's something you discover, often through pain. I've lived through moments that shaped me and moments that nearly broke me. I've worn a uniform with honor, only to have it taken away unjustly. I've fought in silence for years to reclaim my name. I've stood in pulpits preaching faith while privately learning how to survive disappointment. I've loved deeply, failed publicly, walked through divorce, and still had to show up for my children every single day. This conversation isn't about perfection. It's about process. It's about what happens when life doesn't go the way you prayed it would, but you choose to keep believing anyway. It's about what it means to lead while bleeding, to serve while suffering, and to trust God when the timeline feels unfair. So this sit down isn't just a story. It's a testimony, not of having it all together, but of still standing. If you've ever felt misunderstood, if you've ever felt broken, delayed, or forgotten, I want you to know you're not alone. Let's talk.
Don't you go nowhere, don't you go nowhere. Hey everybody, it's Shirley Murdoch, and you're watching Empire Talk with Keith Edmonds.
Keith Edmonds is a man shaped by grace, pressure, purpose, and process. I'm not just one title. I'm a son, a twin, a father, a pastor, a police officer, a creative, a worshiper. I'm someone who has been broken, rebuilt, challenged, and still standing. Everything I've lived through, every uniform I've worn, every stage I've stepped on has been preparation for who I am becoming. That's who Keith Edmonds is. The moments in my life that most shaped me or shaped who I am today, I must say pain shaped me. Responsibility shaped me. Faith sustained me. Becoming a father changed me. Standing in dangerous situations as a police officer humbled me. Standing in God's presence as a pastor grounded me. Life didn't give me shortcuts. It gave me lessons. Each one forced me to choose integrity, courage, and obedience over comfort. Yes, it was a season where I questioned my purpose. Absolutely. There were seasons where I felt pulled in multiple directions, wondering how all these parts of me fit together. But I learned that confusion doesn't mean lack of calling. It simply means expansion. God was never confused about me, even when I was confused about myself. Wow. Being a twin taught me a whole lot. Being a twin teaches you balance. You learn early how to share space, how to share attention and identity, but also how to stand on your own. I learned that unity doesn't erase individuality. My twin Carl and I may move differently, but there's a bond that shaped my understanding of brotherhood, loyalty, and accountability. There were moments when people saw us before they saw me. But that pushed me to discover my own voice, my own calling. It taught me not to compete, but to complete. When did I know I was called to pastor? I didn't wake up one day wanting a title. Trust me, I felt a burden for people before I felt a call to lead them. Pastoring came from compassion, walking with people through pain, purpose, and process. It's not about the pulpit, it's about presence. I was in ministry with my brother Carl for some years. It was called the Rain Church. First it was Millennial Rain, then became the Rain Church. And then he moved to North Carolina and I took over the ministry. Well, to make a long story short, I ended up starting my own church after a while, called Life Changing Church. And it was definitely life-changing. But I went to who my bishop is, my bishop, David Brock. Went to him, and the Lord told me to come with him and merge with him and join his ministry and be up under him. So that's what I did. I ended up following, it was at the time Koinonia, but now it's Love Fellowship Church of Pittsburgh. And that was really a decision that had to be made, because it was definitely something that I think was needed. And a lot of the people followed me over to the church, and some of them are still here with the church. And pastoring is something. I being human, by staying honest. I don't pretend to have all of the answers. I help lead from experience, prayer, and humility. And let me say this, y'all. Pastors bleed too. We just learn how to heal while helping others heal. Fatherhood changed me at the core. It forced me to confront my fears, my wounds, and my unresolved pain. I became deeply aware of the responsibility I carried, not just to provide, but to nurture, protect, and guide. I didn't want my children to feel abandoned, unseen, or uncertain. I wanted to break cycles, not repeat them. Loving my children forced me to heal parts of myself that I didn't even realize were still hurting. There were seasons where I was emotionally exhausted. Seasons where I was carrying grief, disappointment, and uncertainty. But my children still needed me. I learned how to show up even when I didn't feel whole. I learned that presence mattered more than perfection. wanted my children to see resilience, honesty, and perseverance. I wanted them to know that life can knock you down, but you don't stay down. Wow. Becoming a father really changed me. Fatherhood taught me responsibility beyond myself. Everything I do now carries legacy weight. I'm not just raising children, I'm shaping futures. It made me more patient, more intentional, and more prayerful. What do I hope my children say about me one day? Here it is, that I was present, that I loved them loudly, that I showed them how to walk with God, stand with integrity, and love people deeply. Adoption shapes you long before you have words for it. Even as a child, there's an unspoken awareness that your story began differently. You may be loved deeply, cared for faithfully, and supported consistently, but there's still an internal question that quietly lives in you. Was I wanted? And that question doesn't always scream, it whispers. It shows up in how to relate to people, how you seek approval, how you respond to rejection. I grew up trying to understand where I fit in the world. I didn't realize it at the time, but much of my drive came from wanting to belong, wanting to matter, wanting to be chosen again and again. It took years for me to truly understand adoption through a spiritual lens. At first, I viewed God the same way I viewed relationships. I felt like I had to earn His love. I thought obedience guaranteed acceptance. Ministry became a way to prove my worth. But eventually, God began to show me that adoption is not rejection. It's intentional selection. I wasn't an afterthought. I was chosen. That realization broke something open in me. It helped me understand grace. It helped me understand identity and unconditional love. I stopped performing for approval and started living from acceptance. Being a twin means you learn connection early. You're never really alone. You're also constantly navigating individuality. People see you as a pair before they see you as a person. That can be beautiful, but it can also be challenging. I had to learn how to define myself without comparison. I had to understand that my value didn't come from being better or worse. It came from being me. Being a twin taught me loyalty, shared struggle, and mutual accountability, but it also taught me how to stand on my own without severing connection. It taught me humility. I don't need to dominate spaces to feel validated. I understand collaboration. I understand shared vision. I understand that leadership isn't about spotlight, it's about stewardship. Being a twin taught me that greatness doesn't require isolation. It requires unity with individuality intact. I chose law enforcement because service was already rooted in me. I believed in protecting others, in accountability, in order. But the job demanded more than I anticipated. It demanded emotional restraint, mental endurance, and spiritual grounding. You see humanity at its most vulnerable moments, and you carry those experiences with you long after the shift ends. Over time, the weight accumulates. This is a touchy subject right here. It's a touchy subject. I was simply wrongfully terminated, definitely, after 8 years of service. Overnight, I lost more than a job. I lost stability, reputation, and I lost my peace. I knew the truth, but truth doesn't always speak first. That season of my life really hurt deeply. I must say, being misunderstood, being silent while assumptions spoke loudly, still having to lead, parent, pastor, while internally processing loss and betrayal. It really shook me deeply. Losing the job was painful, but having my integrity questioned was devastating. I felt stripped, not just of a position, but of a part of my identity. I had to confront who I was without the uniform. That season forced me to separate my worth from my role. It was one of the hardest lessons I've ever had to learn. The fight required prayer, patience, legal wisdom, emotional endurance. I had to forgive while standing firm, trust God while not knowing what the outcome would be. That's a great question, because walking away would have meant accepting a lie. I wasn't fighting for pride. I was fighting for integrity, for my family, for my legacy, and most definitely for the truth. Wow. I cried. It was restoration, vindication. God reminded me that truth still matters. And winning wasn't about returning to a position. It was about reclaiming my name. It grounded me. It strengthened me. I came back wiser, more intentional, and deeply aware that favor doesn't cancel fight, but it guarantees presence for sure. It taught me patience in ways nothing else could. I learned how to wait without becoming bitter. I learned how to trust God without knowing the outcome. I learned that restoration doesn't happen on your timeline, but it does happen that process really redefined me emotionally, spiritually, and mentally.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Bobby Jones, and you're watching Empire Talk with my friend Keith Edmond.
Yo, the Empire is growing, and we want you in it. Subscribe today, smash that like button, and never miss the epic visuals, stories, and design power we bring straight to you. YouTube channel is Graphics Empire Design. Please show your support on our channel. This is not a sermon. This is not a debate. This is a talk with a sit down with a bishop. Only on Empire Talk. Coming soon.
Divorce really humbles you, forces you to look inward. It exposes wounds, communication gaps, emotional immaturity, and unresolved trauma. It was painful, it was lonely, and deeply personal, but it also forced growth. I had to confront patterns I ignored and pain I avoided. It was uncomfortable. It definitely tested my faith deeply. I had to learn how to trust God when my life didn't reflect my sermons that I preached. Ministry became less about presentation and more about authenticity. I learned that God's faithfulness isn't dependent on my perfection. Mime gave me a voice when words weren't enough. It allowed me to express pain, surrender, faith, and worship physically through mime. I learned discipline. I learned obedience and vulnerability. It became a form of prayer for me, a form of healing, and most definitely a form of testimony. That my body is an instrument of worship, that discipline matters, that surrender is visible. Mime stripped me of ego. And it really taught me obedience through movement. Why mime? Well, because some things are better felt than spoken. Mime taught me surrender, it taught me discipline and worship through obedience. My life required silent endurance. Mime mirrored that journey, expressing faith without explanation. It taught me that worship isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet obedience. Mime taught me that worship doesn't need language. Pain, joy, surrender. Some things are better felt than spoken. Mime gave me a way to minister across barriers and to speak to hearts without saying a word. Wow. Well, Graphics Empire Design was born from vision and necessity. I saw the power of branding, storytelling, and presentation, and I wanted to help others bring their vision to life. Creativity is another form of ministry. Empire isn't about ego, it's about impact. It's about building something bigger than yourself that empowers others. It's legacy and influence and excellence done God's way. That I'm real, that purpose is layered, that obedience matters, that you don't have to choose one lane when God has given you multiple gifts. Wow, that you need to trust the process. Don't rush the becoming. Every tear, every test, every triumph is shaping something greater than you can see right now. As I look back over my life, I don't see a perfect journey. I see grace holding me together when everything else fell apart. I see a child who wondered where he belonged. I see a twin learning how to be connected without being lost. I see a father doing the best he could while carrying his own healing. I see a police officer who served with integrity, was wrongfully removed, and waited years for restoration. I see a pastor who learned that calling doesn't exempt you from pain, but it does anchor you through it. I've learned that failure doesn't cancel purpose. Delay doesn't deny destiny. And brokenness doesn't disqualify you from being used by God. I'm still here. Not because I was strong enough on my own, but because I was held by faith, held by grace, held by a God who restores what life tries to take. And if you're watching this and you're in a fight right now, if you're waiting on justice, if you're waiting on healing, if you're waiting on restoration or clarity, don't quit. Your story is still being written. Your name can still be restored. Your purpose still matters. This isn't the end of my story. And if you're still breathing, it's not the end of yours either. I'm Keith Edmonds, and this is a Sit Down with Keith. Peace.
Real conversations. Unfiltered truth. This is where stories are told. Not to impress, but to impact. Thank you for watching Empire Talk. Subscribe, stay connected, and remember, your story still matters. We'll see you next time on Empire Talk.